Hey, friends. Welcome to the Future Belongs to Creators podcast. I am Haley, and I am joined by my regular co-host, Charlie and Miguel. How's it going, friends?
Hey.
Going well. Yeah. Does anyone else dance along to our intro song? Because as it ends, especially, I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
100%.
Every time.
Every
It just
single
gets
time.
stuck in my head for like a while. For the rest of the day, it's like bouncing around.
Yeah, there's also a jewelry store here locally that uses that music on a radio
How dare
spot.
they?
I know. And every time I hear it, I find myself doing the same thing. I'm just like, really, I like it. I like it. Hey, how was everybody's Miguel, how was your Thanksgiving? I was gonna say like Charlie, but I forget that Thanksgiving isn't a thing for you.
Correct.
But you did have time off. So
I
how
did.
was everyone's time off?
My non-Thanksgiving time off was very productive, and I was very thankful for it, ironically. How about you, Miguel?
Mine was great. I spent it with family and went out.
That's
to, like,
right.
The middle of nowhere.
You were in the yellow room. The
Yep.
I forgot about this. That's right. You were in the banana.
We blocked it from my memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the color of that room probably fried all of your nerve endings in your brain, and it didn't create a memory up until just right now.
There
It
we
was
go.
obnoxious. That's actually the room that we stayed in. So when you wake up to that, you're very awake. It's very apparent that you're in there. So
I love that. That's funny.
What about you, Haley?
Mine was great. We hosted my husband's family. My mom was in Ireland, so it was just it was my dad and then the rest of my husband's family, and we all usually do holidays together anyway, so it was pretty normal. But it was nice. I felt like a real adult hosting. Usually we go to my husband's mom's or my in-laws. So it was fun. I felt like a real adult hosted, had like nice plates out, my like nice stuff. It was fun to use. Yeah, I know. Very adult-like of me. Well, friends, today I'm very excited for this topic of conversation because we don't often actually talk about what ConvertKit does on this podcast. This podcast is more about the creator economy in general, right? Versus specifically our product. It's one of the more important things to us as a team who produces this podcast, and that we don't want it to be like a shameless plug for ConvertKit all the time. As a team, it's really important for us to be part of the creator economy and not just talking about our software and what we do. So, but today that's not necessarily, we're going to talk about email. We're not going to be shamelessly plugging ConvertKit. And
We
why
might
you
a
need
little
to
bit,
use-
let's be honest.
Okay. That's fair. We might a little bit. But I really wanted to talk about this topic because we had a great team meeting yesterday about what we're doing in 2022 and ultimately like why we exist as a business. And it got me excited thinking about it. And so I wanted to have this conversation on the podcast with some more of my team in a more public setting. And so let's kind of kick off the conversation by talking about what is email's place in 2021, the end of 2021 and into 2022. It is the creator economy is crowded, right? With all these different sorts of tools. And as of late, it has been even more crowded, I think, with companies like LinkedIn tapping into the creator economy and all of these other bigger businesses or enterprise style SaaS companies or businesses recognizing the power and importance and presence of the creator economy and creators themselves. So what is email's place in 2022? What do you guys think?
Well, let's start with basically what's interesting about email is it's been around almost as long as the internet has, sending messages electronically. So it's kind of like, I don't know, a lot of people have this attitude towards email like it's this dinosaur, like it's a fax machine. Like, why would you even use one of those anymore, right? And it has become, I think it's starting to kind of come back into favor because it can do a lot of things that, social media, which is like the new guy on the block, isn't necessarily really good at everything. There are some things that email just flat out does better. And we'll get more into that, as we talk in this podcast. But I definitely think that for the purpose of things that we mentioned before in this podcast, like actually owning your relationship with your audience and not being at the mercy of a social platform and the limitations of that platform, just still make it a very big contender. And it's just a matter of kind of knowing how to leverage the mechanism of email in concert with social media, because there's nothing really that new about email, but email with social media and how you connect those two is where the key is, I think.
Yeah, what's kind of cool about the fact that you're right, Miguel, email's been around as long as the internet has. And I don't know, was it around even longer? Could you actually send emails back and forth before you could browse the web, for example? I'm not honestly sure on that fact. But
maybe.
I think that our usage of email has remained pretty similar as well, right? It's to talk to people who are not sitting right next to you. And, obviously with email lists and newsletters, and we've got shops and brands contacting us through our email inbox too, it's less of a one-to-one sometimes, and it's more of a one-to-many, but it's that communication part of it is still there, and you're right. A lot of people see email less as the dinosaur. Maybe that's what I would be if I was a dinosaur, as the dinosaur. But it's it definitely still has its place for that reason, because it's still our hub. Can you think of someone who doesn't check their emails in the morning? If you are a working professional who has a job on a computer, you probably check your emails, and your emails is the place that your flight bookings go, that your restaurant bookings go, that the way you organize your life happens in your email for the most part. And that's why it's a very valuable space for creators to be reaching an audience in. It's not a place that you have to remember to go check, especially it's a natural part of people's day.
I think that's one of the points that Nathan, our CEO, has made several times, is that email can't die. is that it is a behemoth, and it's one of those things that's going to stand the test of time because it's just as you described, Charlie. It's the way it's so embedded in the way that we live our daily lives as working professionals. And I never even thought about like your reservations. As you said that, I was like, huh. I wonder, I'm like, what would it be like if my reservation, my airline ticket, or whatever reservation went to Instagram DMs? Could you
Oh my
imagine?
gosh. Oh my gosh.
I know. But that kind of leads me into the second question, right? Which is like, does it compete with social media? And I think that the answer to that is no, that it doesn't. But oftentimes the perception is that it does compete with social media. And I think one of the things that you said is that email is now one to many. And that's how a lot of people view social media as well, is one to many. However, what email does differently is it helps build a deeper and a better connection, I think, than social media does. And I think that perception can definitely shift. And the reason that I believe that is because email is the place where your truest fans go, right? So we maybe have talked about this, a couple times or very casually talked about it, but I casually follow people all of the time on social media, people that I'm not specifically drawn to, or like we'll call them, I'm not a true fan of their work, but I will casually follow them on social media. If they show up in my feed, great. If they don't, I'm not upset about it. I'm just scrolling. Whereas email is very different. Email is this very personal space. I don't want my email to be flooded with things that I don't want to see, because it's this private personal space. So the only people that I invite into my inbox, I kind of consider it like my home, right? With your house, like you don't invite casual friends into your house. Like that's the safe space for your close friend group.
Especially during COVID times.
Especially during COVID times. Yeah. And so I think that, and that was one of the questions that I said is, are your email fans, your email subscribers, are they worth more than social subscribers or social followers? How do you compare the two groups of people?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't personally have data to back that up, if that makes sense. But following my own email habits, I guess, I relate to what you described, Haley, in that on social is where I'll be happy to just sort of follow people. And I am pretty picky about that. Like I don't want to overfill my feed. But email is where I subscribe to my very favorite creators. They're the ones that I want to allow into my inbox and that I want to see popping up every week. Heck, every day if they want. I don't care. And like maybe I'm not going to open every single email, but I like having them there, and I like being able to see the subject line and click into it if it's something that interests me. And that's often where I do my like purchasing from creators too. So I think that is a part of it, for creators, is that's the way to reach your fans in a place where they're ready to like buy and support you by purchasing your product or your course or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Something that I have seen as a really great tactic. We all know I talk about pottery all the time on this channel, about like that being like my craft of choice.
Not as much as you talk about shares.
Yeah, I got some shade on Slack the other day because Charlie posted she not living in America and not actually having true Black Friday things because of Thanksgiving. They still somehow
the whole world does Black Friday now.
Friday now.
Yeah.
And Charlie bought a new chair, and then Miguel somehow came on and responded that because okay, it was a joke about chairs, and maybe it's not going to be funny to everybody else, but they were making fun.
But you think of chairs, you think of Haley. That's the point. Yep.
Yeah.
Move on. What was your point before I interrupted you?
I don't know. I kind of forgot it.
I'm sorry.
No, you got to bring it back. Bring it back. Oh, that's right. I said pottery. We were talking about pottery because I talk about pottery all the time, or use it as in examples all the time. But I'm going to New York to shoot some creator session episodes in a couple of weeks. One of my favorite potters happens to live in Brooklyn. And so I was just checking out. I wonder if she has any, like pop-up shops or things that are happening. The interesting thing is that you can't buy from her if you are not an email subscriber. And the reason is that email subscribers get let into the store, essentially like an online store, when it drops earlier than anybody else. And if you're not an email subscriber, so she'll release it 6 hours, 2 hours. I can't remember exactly how long it is. And everything is sold out before that.
Wow.
So she's so popular and in demand that the only way to get her pottery is to sign up to her email, which I think is great because then it relies, she's using social media. This is one of the things that Nathan talked about yesterday. She's using social media as a distribution tool or as a to collect new subscribers and new fans. And then she's pushing them into the funnel of email, and then she's taking control from there. So she's not relying on social media, on Instagram, on the algorithm. When she has a shop drop, she's not relying on them to be able to reach her truest fans. And as a result of that, you literally cannot buy a mug unless you are an email subscriber. So you know what I am? An email subscriber. And even then it's hard to get them because they go so dang fast. Another creator that does this that I've talked about is Erin Benzacki. I can't remember her last name, from Floret Farms. Magnolia has done Magnolia Network. They did a show with her. And she took Marie Forleo's has been in Marie Forleo's ecosystem for a long time. And same thing, she's in such high demand that she sells seeds. Her seeds that's her business. So seed production. And you can't, because she sells these fairly rare types of seeds.
How's that for a niche?
I know, right? You can't get them unless you're an email subscriber. So every single day on her Instagram stories, all she's pushing is sign up for my newsletter. If you want the seed, sign up for my newsletter. And then she removes social media out of the algorithm. She understands the importance of it from gaining new people more quickly. And this is, I'm kind of rambling here a little bit, but this goes into the problem that email actually has, is that you don't have the ability to go viral, right? Like you can't share a newsletter with somebody the same way that social posts can go viral. So social posts, they go viral. They give you access to an entirely new audience or hundreds of thousands of people when your email list maybe only has 5 or so thousand. And then you're able to push them into your email funnel, and then you can sell to them there. So that's one way that I see a lot of creators using email or using social media to fuel their email growth.
Yeah, and I think that's it, is it doesn't have to be one or the other. Go for it, Megs. That was all I wanted to say, is that we don't have to pick. We can have both social and email if we want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the email enables you to do things a little slightly differently. So for example, let's say you have a store and you're having some kind of a sale, and you have two options. You can either kind of plaster everywhere that you're doing 20% off or something like that, and it's everywhere and it's open to everyone. Or you can use email to segment your audience and be a little bit more strategic about who gets the information about the sale, and do things like early access or individual codes that are only for those people. That's not something that you could do in social media because by its very nature, it's everywhere. It's not hidden from anyone. But with email, you can do exclusives really easily and send those out. I get emails from certain brands that I love, and I'll often get a link that'll send me to a page that is only accessible through the link in the email. And the prices are much nicer than the ones that are on their normal website. And that's because I'm an email subscriber. And that company probably would not want to have that link or be on Twitter or something like that, because they're specifically trying to reward their true fans. And they're not just trying to say, hey, we're having a sale, come one, come all.
Yeah. Actually, this ties into, I saw Paul has asked a question in the chat that I want to bring up. Said, all values their email subs, would love to know how about data on frequency though. How many emails are too many versus sending too few emails? And Paul says that probably fall into the too few category for fear of getting people unsubscribing from the emails. And I know this is something that creators worry about a lot, but I think what you just described there, Miguel, about emails being a reward for the people who are subscribed to you means that you can kind of send as many emails as you want, as long as every single one is rewarding that person for signing up, whether that's giving them a special offer, giving them special information, that perhaps you haven't shared elsewhere, or like making sure that you are aware of and grateful that they've allowed you into their inbox, and that you treat that with respect, by trying to provide value with each email. And as long as you're doing that, the right people will stay subscribed to you, and sure, some people might unsubscribe if they figure out that, well, maybe this isn't for me, I don't want more information on this topic that you're talking about. That's okay too, because you want to make sure your list is just the people who are interested in that topic.
I think that really depends on the type of creator that you are. A very good example is authors. So this actually is something that I just happened to see yesterday. And it's funny how it came about. This is kind of coming full circle a little bit, but we have an author who uses ConvertKit. She wrote a New York Times bestselling book called The Love Hypothesis. I just ordered it yesterday on Amazon. I'm going to actually see if she'll do a creator session with us, which I think would be really fun. But she has a fascinating story. But as I was kind of exploring and looking into how she's using email, her email subscriber growth has it's growing fairly quickly. And one of the ways, and I was wondering how she was doing this, and she's used TikTok and social media as one of the main ways that she's doing this. But what I find to be really interesting is, as an author, she has this character, this book, The Love Hypothesis. And if you're familiar with, okay, this is going to be don't judge me for this. Okay. 50 Shades of Grey, right?
Not what I expected you to say.
Yeah, I know. But it was a wildly popular book. And I can't remember the author's name, Stephanie, maybe something like that. No, that's Twilight. Don't judge me again. Oh my gosh. Hear me out. I'm going with this.
I'm
listening.
The book 50 Shades of Grey is written from the female character's perspective. And after millions and millions of people loved this book so much, they wanted to hear what Christian's perspective, the male character's perspective, was in the book. So many years after the final book was released, she released a book from Christian's perspective. Now, this other author, Ali Hazelwood, who wrote The Love Hypothesis, has a very similar book in that her two characters are beloved, but it came from the female's perspective. So she used her email list, and every day she was releasing content or like chapters or something. And I'm kind of guessing a couple things. This isn't exactly what she did, but she was providing in her emails, she was sending pages from the male character's perspective.
Cool.
And so it was this exclusive content that wasn't yet a book, right? But that the true fans, like people that loved this book, the newsletter was emails was the only place that the only place that you could see this new exclusive content. Now, if I'm a reader, and I'm pulling it full circle back to Paul's question, right, is how much is too much? For Ali, if I was a subscriber and she emailed me every day for 30 days, one page out of the book, I would have been sitting at my desk at that time at noon when that email went out to get the next page, right?
Yeah.
So I really think that it depends on the type of creator that you are and what you're doing and what your email strategy is. And you can easily, in that circumstance, 30 days, 30 emails would not have been an overload, right? Because people are sitting on the edge of their chair. If you're doing a sales promotion, maybe every day for 30 days is a little bit too much, and your email subscribers are going to get tired out. If you're doing an intro sequence and you're introducing yourself to a new subscriber and you have 4 days of like, this is who I am. This is what's important to me. This is what you are to this is what you should expect from being an email subscriber. And then they move into a different sort of funnel. That's also not too much. But if so I think it really depends on what your email strategy is. I know that wasn't a specific answer to the question.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It's a great example of one as well, because it depends on the content and if it's still valuable to repeat it each day as well, right? Like, you're right, 30 days of a page of the story, it's like you're seeing the continuation. And if you're not interested in her writing anymore, maybe you're going to drop off the list, and that's fine. Because if you're not interested in her writing, you're not interested in anything else she's going to talk about. But 30 days of sending the same discount link, probably not very valuable. If someone doesn't want it after the first 2 or 3 times you share it with them, maybe let's give them a break.
Yeah, and on the other side of that too is sometimes when you get a a bunch of emails about a sale, to continue with the example I was giving from before. And then you get to the website and it's on the top banner of the website and they have it all over the place. Then you realize, oh, this isn't a reward for me being an email subscriber. This is just something you're sending out to everybody to let everybody know about a sale that anybody that goes on your site knows about.
Mm.
So that to me, is fine because that's the point of marketing and whatnot. But it feels less exclusive, and it feels like my relationship with them is a little bit less of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit less of an advantage as a consumer of their content or their products, because they're just pulling me into their website, which is valid, but to contrast with what we were talking about before as a reward for being an email person, maybe you're giving people early access to a sale that you were going to have anyway, but people get a head start on it or something like that. I think is a good way to do it. And another fun thing about doing things with email and tying things to email addresses is with tools like ConvertKit, for example. We can track what these email addresses are doing, what they're clicking on, what their behavior is. And through tools like ConvertKit, you can segment those subscribers and add tags to those people that kind of shows what things are clicking on, what things are not clicking on. You can even very explicitly in an email say, hey, if you want more stuff about sales, click here. Hey, if you're tired of these emails, click here and I'll send you fewer emails. And people can kind of sort of tailor make their frequency if they're being annoyed without the option being I'm in or I'm out.
Yep.
And that's something you can't do with social media. Social media, your only option is like mute the posts or unsubscribe. There's no send me fewer of their posts or send me more of their posts. You can't get that granular. So that's one of the other benefits of emails, that you can really segment your audience based on their wants and their behavior, which is really cool.
Mm.
I treat my email list as well as a way to learn more about my audience. Something that I've actually noticed I get less of now that I'm using a fancy designed email template to send my newsletter is I get less replies than when I was just sending out plain text emails. So that's interesting. And I'll be honest, it has made me consider going back to like the plainer one, because I really liked getting more responses to things. But maybe it's also just that the topics I've been sending lately haven't elicited a response. I have to recognize that too. But I have a thing on a lot of my forms. And also in a welcome email, I use the tagging thing Miguel's talking about to ask people what level of design experience they have, so that when someone joins my list, I'm also getting to learn, are they just getting started? Are they a junior designer, mid, senior? Do they lead a team? Are they not even interested in design and they're here on my list for some other unbeknown reason I don't understand? It's really cool to get to learn that through the tagging system Miguel was talking about, so that not only I can send content to the right people, but also just gives me a gauge in general of who are these people who are interested in being in my audience. Even if I send the same content out to all of them, helps to know that like 20% are juniors, for example.
Yeah, Charlie, I was going to ask that. I was going to say, do you send people down different paths or content? Do you send them different content based off of their skill level or their where they're at, beginner, junior, or senior?
Only done this once, in that I was an affiliate for a friend's course about web design, if I'm remembering correctly. And so I knew this wasn't probably a thing to send to people who were leading teams or senior designers on my list. It was a course aimed at like a lower level. And so I was like, great, let me like make a little segment and just send it to those people. And that meant that I was making sure I was providing value to them, right, by telling them about this course and recommending it, and that I wasn't annoying the people who it wouldn't be relevant for. I think that helps instill more loyalty as well, because if people open an email from you and it's like it's relevant to them and it, is something they're interested in hearing about, it just creates like a good association in their mind with you. I had someone actually, a reply I did get the other day saying, oh my gosh, why are you always sending me this content that I need exactly when I need it? Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, magic.
Magic. Magic. I like your comment about replies. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't highlight that when subscribers do reply to you when you're using a software like email, it's a great deliverability hack. So even throwing it just I feel like Alyssa here, but even throwing in an email maybe that's not a templated email and then actually asking your subscribers to reply to that email because both you want to hear what they have to say, but also so that way Google knows that they're replying to you and your email. It's a great deliverability hack without getting into the nitty gritty of why that works. But I would encourage you, if you've never done that, to try and see how many of your subscribers actually reply. Just as a quick little tidbit, on deliverability.
Thanks, Haley. You're back.
You're welcome. You're welcome. What are other ways that we see subscribers or email, like our customers growing their list in different niches? I have like an example of an author, but what else? What are you seeing?
I think you're breaking up a little bit there, Haley, but I think I got the gist of the question. My favorite email lists to be on are the ones that feel personal, like that even if someone is just using a designed template, that they type like they're talking to me. And I tend to be on the email lists of people who I also follow on YouTube. So maybe like this helps with that. But when I read their emails, I'm like reading it in their voice, because I watch their videos, so I know what they sound like, and they write the same way that they talk, and so it feels really personal in that way. I think that's a great way to grow is by using email as a space to like be more open and be genuine. And that maybe it's not like any sort of audience growth hack where it's going to get you more subscribers onto email lists, but I think it certainly gets them to stay more. Yeah.
How are you seeing the YouTubers? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Miguel.
Sorry, I just wanted to piggyback on Charlie's. This is actually not an answer to your question, but what Charlie said did make me think of something. And with email, it's very much the conversation is between the sender and the recipient, which is nice. Whereas social media, it's a town hall meeting where everybody is saying everybody is talking about something, and the things that other people say about what you said on something like Twitter can change the context or change the feeling or change the meaning and twist it just a little bit because it's a conversation there between everyone.
In the comments, that's right. Everybody can see your reply. The reply is accessible to everybody.
Right, exactly. And I feel like you have a little less control over the message there as a result. So another pro for the email, specifically plain text emails, I feel they feel more like a conversation as opposed to like one with lots of other things going on. If it feels more like a newsletter, it feels less replyable because it almost like I've almost been trained that like newsletters are not things that I reply to and a human's going to respond to.
Yeah.
It's usually like a do not reply at so-and-so.com.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. That makes sense. And I think I've just like sacrificed the replyability for the sake of design in this case, which may not be the best.
As a designer, that is understandable.
Yeah. At conferences when I used to teach, Alexis and I would go quite a bit, and we would teach sessions like at conferences, right? And I would always ask, when was the last time that you replied to like a Nordstrom anniversary sale email? You're like, oh, thanks, Nordstrom. This is such great news. I'm going to get the boots. It's the last time. Has anyone
I'm going to start doing that? That sounds fun. Let me go hit up Everlane real quick.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's funny. I just knocked a bunch of crap off my desk. Anyways, well, friends, I have really enjoyed this conversation about email. I feel like it's a conversation that we don't have all that often. I hope that it's helpful for everybody to have these sorts of conversations. Does anybody in the comment who's here live, Noah, Paul, does anybody have any questions that you'd want to ask while we're here talking about it?
And while anyone's asking, Miguel, did you have any, I don't know, like email lists that you're a big fan of or ways that you've seen people growing?
Yeah, so it's really, hello, Kat. Is this Nora?
This is a Nora. Yeah, she doesn't have an email
Nora.
list. And for
Okay.
the people listening to the audio version, I'm holding my ginger cat right now.
It's adorable. Another reason you should be here live is to, see
See the
cute
cat.
cat.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, to your question, I do really like when I receive an email that is, I like it when it's reflective of my behavior on somebody's site, um, because not necessarily because it's more of a joy to get those things, but it's nice that the emails that I am getting are not generic and that are more specific to the things that I tend to be clicking on their website and then the things that I tend to be doing because it makes them more relevant to what I'm doing. And oftentimes, some people get really clever with it. And if there was something I clicked on and didn't do anything about, some of their sites are advanced enough that they're like, hey, we saw that. I think Etsy does this where I was looking at something and then the seller has the ability to be like, hey, we noticed that you clicked on this and didn't buy it. The seller is offering you right now a 15% off coupon. Interested? And I'm like, well, I was kind of interested, but now I'm like super interested. So, and then they make the sale. So that's really, really cool. I find that to be really interesting. And I like to think of myself as somebody who's like, you can't trick me with your marketing mojo. Like I can see through it. I work for a marketing company, but I am a good sucker for a good coupon. So take that for what it's worth. So
And like we talked about, was it last week? We talked about how we all buy things from Instagram ads.
Oh, it's
oh
bad.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't like to admit to it, but I definitely do.
Yeah.
We've got a question here from Paul asking, can you give an example of tagging and segmenting? Because Paul follows on, I tend to see emails to everyone, not segmented. And I think that it's okay to send emails to everyone if it's relevant to everyone. That makes perfect sense. And where you want to, I think you should think about segmenting when there's a message you want to communicate that you feel will only be relevant to a certain portion of your audience. And so maybe if there's a certain type of content you make, like, I recently set up a landing page to send people email notifications of when I go live on YouTube. That is absolutely not something that I'm sure that all of the 20,000 people on my email list want to receive an email about. But for a group of people who have said, hey, YouTube notifications aren't working for me and I hate that I'm missing your streams, I'm like, great, well, sign up here and I'll email you. So I'll send my email just to that segment of my list because I know just that segment of people are interested in it. That's one example of how you could choose to segment and send to just one group of people.
I'll give an example. This is kind of based off of Charlie, your example. Hopefully I'm not breaking up again.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, this is an example based off kind of something that you had talked about earlier, is that when people come into your email list, one of the things that a lot of email experts recommend is that you introduce them into a welcome series. And that's an opportunity for you to ask questions about your audience and get them to engage in that first email. And that first email might be, let's say, for example, you're Charlie, you're a designer, and you're asking them, you're saying, hi, I'm Charlie, I'm a designer. This is a little bit about me. Now tell me a little bit about you. I write content for designers, and sometimes my content is geared more towards beginners, intermediate, and expert designers. And when they click a link, that link will actually tag those subscribers. And then you can create segments within those tags that might be like beginner, intermediate, and segment or an expert. And so when you're writing a specific email on a piece of content that might be a little bit more advanced, you would then segment out that email to your more advanced list that they self-described as themselves. I think that's just one example. Paul, I'm curious what type of creator you are, what you do for your creative endeavors, and maybe we can give a little bit more specific of an example, but that's just one that kind of popped off the top of my head from the very beginning.
Or your very generic example of just basic list hygiene, which is just if you have a bunch of emails, the emails on your list and you want to have the most engaged list possible, and there might be a lot of emails in there that don't ever interact with any of your stuff. You can, with a tool like, say, ConvertKit, for example. That's the one I know the best. Swear to God, this isn't a pitch or anything. But you can say, okay, this person hasn't clicked on anything, and over 6 months. So I'll create a segment of anybody that hasn't interacted with my stuff in over X amount of time and send a specific email to those people and be like, hey, are you still interested in my stuff? If so, click here. And if they click, you keep them. And if you don't, see you later. And then that way
Yeah.
you have a nice lean list.
Yeah, actually, to expand on that even further, if they don't click, you can move them into a cold subscriber sequence, and you might send them 4 or 5 emails over the course of 10 or so days, giving them an opportunity to click, and then they move into the clean list segment. And then after, let's say, a 10-day sequence in that cold subscriber sequence, then you would essentially rid those subscribers of your list, and that helps good list hygiene. Charlie, I feel like I have to answer your question, which is like lists or newsletters that you like, and I've already referenced her, but Erin Benzacki, I don't know. Like I said, her business is Floret Farms, right? And like I said, now I want her information, or I want to be on the newsletter because I want to buy these like rare seeds, because I do this cut flower garden business for my daughters to help them understand how to earn money and work. And so they make bouquets and they sell them to our neighborhood, which is great fun. I feel like Pat Flynn would give me a big pat on the back for this one. He has a podcast with his son about entrepreneurship. And but the reason why I like her newsletter is because her newsletter is about the realities of building her business as a female entrepreneur. And she doesn't talk about that too often on her blog. She saves a lot of that for her newsletter. And so I feel like I can go find a bunch of resources, learning resources on her blog, which really, she's an education business. She educates people how to grow small and big farms, right? Specifically with cut flowers. But in her newsletter is when she talks to female entrepreneurs. And I really like that content. So for me, that's one of my favorite newsletters to follow, because I'm both getting pitched something that I want, rare cut flowers that are hard to find. And 2, I feel like I'm being taught by a female entrepreneur that's paving the way for other female entrepreneurs. And it's really good stuff for my daughters, because I like to show them some of her stuff, and to show what you can do with a dream. And for her, her story is really amazing. And if you watched her show on Magnolia Network, you kind of get a small glimpse of the stuff that she shares in her newsletter.
Nice. One of my favorite ones to receive is Sean Blanc, he makes the focus course and like a planner that I buy every year called I think it's called Plan Your Year workbook. That takes you through like a really intentional way to think about what you want to get out of the year and how you're going to approach it. And I don't think I open every one of his emails, but whenever I do, there's like something really thoughtful and like, I don't know, it puts me in a good state of mind. So I really appreciate having them in my inbox.
Cool. All right, friends. Was that it?
I think that's it.
I'm always the worst at closing out podcasts. I'm just like,
you really are.
I'm not great at it.
You just don't want to go. You just want to hang out with us all day, don't you?
I know. It's usually just this blunt, like, hey, it's been about 42 minutes. I think it's time to end. What do you think? No, in all seriousness, Charlie, you want to give them an update on the end of the year, because we are going to be taking a little bit of a break towards the end of the year. So we'll just give you a quick little kind of update on that. I think we're coming back next week, and then we're going to take a bit of a content break. Am I right there?
Yeah. Next week, we'll do a 2021 recap, what we've learned as creators this year. Like, yeah, just an overview of a year. We're going to do some reflecting, and then we will see you back going strong for 2022 with our new format.
Yes. Very excited. All right, friends. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. We'll be back next week for our last episode of 2021. Let's all hope that 2022 is a little bit better than 2021. I know there's still a lot of great things that came out of it, but we'll see you next week.
Bye.
I'm so bad.
Oh, Haley.
Never